Hi, Jose. My name is Nelson Mason. I'm going to be your Racers360 coach here for Daytona. We'll run through it together, but I wanted to say, first off, good lap. I understand what you're saying, like where are the mistakes, things like that. I wouldn't say there's really any mistakes. Here, we'll start from the beginning. So a little background on me. So I guess I turned professional when I was about 14. That's when I guess I started making a living at it. And then that brought me over to Europe. And then I spent the next, let's say, decade and a half, 15 years in Europe, racing open wheel, racing World Series, Formula 2. And now I'm back to North America. So enjoying the good life back here. With family and friends and all of that, everything that I missed out on, I guess. But it's still all about racing. So we're working on an IndyCar program, but we'll see what comes. Right now, I'm your coach, so we'll go from there. So I've done Daytona. I've done Daytona in an LMP car. So the lines, of course, are a little bit different from a Mustang, just because we have quite a bit more downforce and quite a bit lighter. So you really are much more aggressive on the lines, I will say, in an LMP car. And whereas with the Mustang, I think you have to be a little bit more strategic. But neither here nor there. I can assist. Okay, so we'll run through this and get going. But like I say, good lap. Really, the first thing, I'm going to have some questions for you, just to see what we can and can't do. So here, I know with the way cameras work in cars, it makes the lighting a little bit shoddy, but we'll try right from here. So really what you do is you're coming in and you stay low and come down here kind of like this way. Whereas one thing I will say is in the LMP car, I was out against this wall and came down in a much straighter way. So I was able to obviously stay flat until the turn-in point, and then drove straight down to, I guess what they call turn 2. I mean, the issue I've had is every team calls it a different number. But anyway, so the reality of turn 1. But anyways, so coming straight down here, that allowed me to brake in a straight line, do my downshifts properly, and really get into the corner properly. Just a second here, I've got a mouse issue. Okay, so yeah, so really getting down into turn 1, just to see how, let's say, how straight we can get into one and how we can make one work for us. The one thing I will say is 1 is a very important corner, because although we are, obviously, this is the fastest portion of the track, what we're at right now. So the longer that we can stay at this 150, 140 mile per hour marker, the better off we are, of course. But 1 then leads to really, I mean, I would say 2 is, they call the right left 2. It's very odd. I don't get it. I mean, in Europe, everything's easy. Every corner is a corner, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway. So the right left, which is 2, just by the pit exit there, I would say that's pretty much always going to be flat or very near flat. So therefore, the exit of 1 is key. It is crucial. And, so it's something that we want to maximize for sure. And in this lap, I would say we're a little bit late getting back to throttle, and we've kind of carried the speed in, and we're just late getting on the throttle after the apex. So if we can rectify that, we will have a better time between turn 1 and turn 3, which they call the horseshoe. So we'll roll down here, but like I say, if we can work to, the question I have is if we can work to be, let me take these lines off. If we can work to have the car just place, out here a little bit more, and then come down into the braking zone like this, just to have the car rotated a little bit better, because I'm going to roll forward in slow motion if I can. So we break and we do, so right now we're doing what everybody does, okay? I will say I don't know, the competitor in me. Long story short, everywhere I go at a racetrack, doesn't matter if it's Mossport, which is my home track, or Silverstone, which is genuinely my home track because I've been there so many times. Every track I go to, I don't watch what the locals do. That's what, originally my father said, oh, this is the line, this is the line. We then discovered, really, like as I was going through F3 and things like that, F that, to be frank, pardon my French. I'm Canadian, so I guess I'm allowed to say it. But really, you need to look at the track as in what's going to benefit me the most, not what's going to benefit that guy that's driving around in his, F production Austin Healey. So take every corner as to how am I going to do this corner rather than how is everybody else doing this corner. Because the reality is you're in something like a Mustang, you can create grip. You can create a line just by working a line. You can create a line and then make it work for you. Okay, so as we roll through here, we take the line that everybody takes. The straight braking here, we're down into fourth gear, and then we drive straight to the outside of the track, and then we are still in the brakes and now trying to feed out of the brakes early on in the corner, and then we're trying to get to the apex, okay? Now we're realistically going past the apex because we're still trying to feed in that braking. It's a very difficult section, and it's a very difficult corner. And I will say, in the prototype with the lines I took, where I went, let's say I was outside and I cranked it and made it straight. So like I was doing a straight braking zone and a straight corner. It was difficult to get it right. And, I did use this runoff a few times in practicing it. But by the time I had it right, I will say in my very first practice session there, I did break the lap record here. So it's all about, it was nothing I was doing special that like my co-drivers weren't doing. It's just, I take a different mentality and I look at what is going to benefit me the most. How am I going to work this corner? Rather than how can I do this corner better than a million other people have done this corner. So long story short, I think if we back out here and we try just working a little bit harder at, okay, so here we're just starting our braking zone. If we work a little bit harder at getting the car out here rather than where we are here, like braking in a straight line like this, if we work to be out here a little bit more, we'll have a much better opportunity of just, let me use a green line for what I'm suggesting. Much a better opportunity to brake in a straight line like this. Or, even if we're easing into the brake and do our initial turning up here and get the car straight when we come into, let's say, the flat portion after we come off the banking, I think there's going to be time gain. Even if we can move it out just a little bit, we don't have to be all the way out to the wall, but even if we can just move it out a little bit, I think there will be time gain here, because what's going to happen right now, we downshift into fourth gear, right? Boom, there's our downshift to fourth gear. Now, this is what lays in front of us. We're braking and the car is headed this way. But the reality is our apex is way over here. Can you see that? Way over here. So that's where our apex is. That's where we want to get to. We're realistically headed in completely the wrong direction to get there. So we're having to really do we're having to really do one of these to get over to there, okay? So that's a little bit of an issue. If we have the car pointed even remotely differently, maybe not like that. If we have the car pointed even more like this, then it's going to be much easier to get to this point. You see what I mean? It's much less of a struggle to get from here with the car pointed in this direction to this point here, okay, which is our apex point. So all of that is quite confusing. But anyway, so that's something I would like you to try the next time you're out. Just try to inch it out. I mean, even a foot, a foot wider in having a slightly different trajectory. Just change your trajectory a little bit, because there's two things I want to comment on here. First, it's, okay, now it was lying, all right? Now we're going to roll forward. We've downshifted to fourth gear. We start turning in the wheel, right? We start our turn in. We see our apex. We are looking ahead. But let's look at this for a second. We are at 4,100 RPM, okay? What do we get to? We're turning in, turning in, turning in, turning in, turning in. We're still on the brake, yet realistically, the apex is right here. So we're on the brake past the apex, which is something I don't want to do. We're at 3,300 RPM now. Still declining. Still getting this car turned. 3,200. Okay, so there's our if we can go back, I don't know. Okay, so there's our minimum speed right there. 3,200 RPM. Preferably, I would want to be in third gear at this point. I think that we're doing 50 miles per hour. I think we should be in third gear. I think it'll allow the car to rotate that little bit more and give us a much better exit. Plus, we'll be on the gas. With that extra downshift, it'll allow the car to slow down that little bit more in this section. So if we're keeping the wheel a little bit, I'm throwing a lot of hypotheticals at you, and I'm sorry for that. But if we keep the wheel a little bit straighter here, so like if we have that slightly different trajectory, then we're going to be down to third gear. Car's going to slow up a little bit better. And then really at this point, we're going to be like, okay, so here's our apex. We're going to have the car trajectory figured out, and we're going to be able to go, boom, on the gas at the apex, not still on the brakes at the apex. Okay? So, and also when we get on the gas, the car's going to accelerate quite a bit quicker because we're in third gear rather than fourth gear. Okay, so a little change in trajectory, maybe a downshift, I would recommend, and that's going to give us a much better exit. And honestly, if we have to brake a little bit earlier to make sure that we're on the gas at the apex, then so be it. I mean, honestly, we're going to find a time gain by not being on the brakes past the apex point. Okay, so we lost our volume. Okay. Because then you see the one thing I will say, like our trajectory is we're still pointed out to the parking lot out here, whatever they call it, parking lot B, whatever it is. We're still pointed out there. Yet now we're having to get on the gas because you just feel we're so far into the corner. We need to get on the gas. So let's get out of that brake a little bit earlier, by maybe getting into the brake earlier, or getting the car, using that downshift to slow the car up a little bit better. Whatever we need to do, there's going to be a time gain there. And let's get rid of this. 40, 50, 60, there's 100% throttle. And brake. So here, again, I mean, I feel, okay, so now we're into third gear. That's good. And we're at 45 miles per hour. For me, I don't know how you feel about your line here. I would like to discuss a little bit. You take a very late apex and then you kind of accelerate out. That's good if we're getting back to 100% throttle straight away. Then this line is the way forward. And watch our throttle. We're feeding. Okay, there's 100% throttle. So a thing I think is that type of throttle is not suitable for the line that we're taking. We're basically, what's happening is we're overslowing the car to allow us to do that late apex. And then we're doing the late apex, but we're not getting the car rotated enough. And then we're not able to really get back to throttle. So I would simplify this a little bit. I would drive the car in, get it into the sort of bowl that's here in the horseshoe, because there is grip on the inside and there's not grip where I tried the late apex as well. And I basically slid off into the boondocks, but not quite off the track, but it sure felt like it. So, you know, we can, let's see here. Let's see if we can draw it from this image. We can get into this bowl right in here and get the car rotated. Okay, so we can get in there. Here's our apex right here, our main apex, or, you know, maybe it's along the corner a little bit more, somewhere around here. But we'll be on the brakes and trail braking in to that apex. The thing that I want to see, let me see if I can draw a little bit of a graph here for us. So let's get this terrible line off the, can we see this? Where can we see it? Okay, maybe that's not the best color. Oh, good job, but maybe that's not the best color. We'll do it over here. Okay, so let's say this is our graph, okay? And I don't know if, oh, you know what? We'll do this. I've got an idea for us. It's the first time I've thought about this, so let's congratulate me. Okay, so let's say this is our graph. We've got like throttle brake versus time distance. Okay, right now, what we're doing is we're on the brake and easing out of the brake. And then we're getting back to throttle, but we're doing this. Easing back into throttle. And then to throttle and 100%. Okay. What I would recommend is we turn in a little bit earlier. So maybe our brake is more like this to our mid-corner speed part. And then we're right back into the throttle. Just like this. So our time, like right now, you're getting into the throttle here, and we're not at full throttle until here. What I'm saying is we carry the speed in a little bit, or like, you know, turn in a little bit earlier, coast it, or like trail braking it through the horseshoe a bit more. And, you know, our mid-corner speed is here, wherever. Let me undo that, because that was terrible. You know, our mid-corner speed is like here. But then when we get back to throttle, which is this point, we're up to full throttle straight away. So we're getting the car rotated. What we're doing this whole time is we're rotating the car to be pointed out of the horseshoe a bit better. And then we're getting back to the throttle. What this is going to do is when we start getting into that 20% throttle, we're causing the car to understeer. We're basically lifting up the front end, and then the car is understeering out. What we're doing now is we're keeping the front end pinned down. That's allowing the car to rotate more into the corner. And then when we get back to throttle, it's an immediate transition. The car is pointed, and it's going to realistically guide itself out. If we look at it from like a chassis balance point of view, let's see here. So let's say this is our chassis right here. And I'll give you some wheels just so that look at these bad boys. Look at this. That's a Mustang and a half right there. Okay, so right now or I guess what's happening. So we're on the brakes, the front end dives, the rear lifts, right? As we get, and then we do our late turn in. So just as we ease out of the brake, the front end's not dived or not held down as much. and the rear isn't lifting as much. So there is a little bit of a weight transition going on there, but it's not too drastic. Then we put in the majority of our steering, and that's when, and we start to press the throttle. So now we've lifted the front end of the chassis like this. We've had the rear dive. So we're actually putting more weight to the rear. We're reducing the grip on the front, and we're increasing the steering angle, which is causing the car to understeer massively. So we're not utilizing keeping the front or the nose pinned down. Okay, so if we trail brake into the corner and turn in a little bit earlier, we will keep the nose pinned down a little bit longer. That's going to allow the car to rotate and point out of the corner a bit better. So we're actually going to be to throttle maybe a little bit later, but we're going to be getting to full throttle earlier. You understand what I mean? So we're just narrowing down that window of indecision, let's say, so, or that inaction. So we're narrowing our work point. We're braking, and we're doing one braking, then we're turning, then we're gassing. That's kind of the way that it's working, rather than sort of braking, then turn, and kind of gas and turn, gas and turn, gas and turn, gas and turn until we get to the exit, and then we're full throttle. Oh, that little diagram, that's free. You can have that. That's a beauty. Okay, moving forward. So this is kind of, I would agree. So your apex is good, but let's try to hold it into the corner. Either get in there a little bit earlier, or whatever, just to get it to rotate a bit better before we get back to throttle. So I don't want to be on throttle until the apex. If we can be on throttle before the apex, then we've slowed the car down too much, and we're going to cause ourselves to chase that exit like we were. Here, very, very similar. You know, if there's grip, like I would say there's usually grip down in here, okay? And there's usually no grip out here. So that's in my experience. I need you to feel it for yourself, but you know, if we get the car into the bowl a little bit earlier, it will stick and rotate. And again, we'll brake to the apex point, then we'll throttle out. But what I want to showcase here is really not this corner, but the next one. So what's this? This is considered turn 5, then we've got turn 6. So here we downshift to third gear, okay? We're 48 miles per hour. We've downshifted to third gear, and we're at still 3,700 RPM. Okay. Again, you hear that throttle. We want to avoid that. We want to be, when we get back to the throttle, we want it to go 0 to 100% fairly quickly, not 0 to 20, then to 40, then hold 60 for a bit, then 100. The more that we crunch that down, we get to throttle when we mean business, that is going to find us time. The car is going to work better for us, okay? And therefore, we're going to have a better idea of where the car's headed. We're not guessing on throttle, and then we're going to find time based on that. It's a confidence booster. The car works better, and it's significantly better on the stopwatch. Okay, up to fourth gear. So remember, we were at 48 miles per hour at turn 5, right? And we used third gear. We stick in fourth here, and we're at 38 miles per hour, okay? Or realistically 40. But we stick in fourth gear. This is going on to the longest straight that we're going to do. So the key is exit here. The key isn't entry, okay? So we've driven it in hard. But now, look, I mean, we're 2,600 RPM, okay? So we've driven it in hard. There's our apex. So we're getting on power at the apex, but 31% throttle at 2,600 RPM. You know how much power your car's producing? Not much. Now I know we're empty on fuel, so we do have that going for us, but the reality is we're not actually, this on power thing is just delaying us to when we're actually getting to full throttle. Now the car's starting to accelerate. So the key is here, we need to use third gear. This is coming on to the longest straight. All we care about is the exit. Our entry does not matter at all, because all that matters is our exit speed. So let's get the car woed up. You know, let's get the car woed up by this point. Third gear at this point. So when you're on throttle, you're good, but I want to be getting to 100% throttle very quickly. So I want the car to be rotated a little bit more at this point. You know, so maybe, I don't know if we brake too late, but if we use that downshift, the car is going to slow up a little bit more for us anyway. And then from this point on, I want to be pointed out here, not like we are kind of out like this. So, you know, we're pointed, we're getting onto the throttle, but the car is realistically pointed out to these grandstands here. So I want to have the car pointed a little bit more down the track. Also, I mean, in my experience, I've found that just running out to this exit, that can work, but that delays how quickly you can get back to throttle. I've rotated the car quite a bit and actually kept it a little bit tighter out of there, but I've gotten to 100% throttle straight away. And by the time I get to, you know, the NASCAR turn, whatever it is, turn 3 here, turn 3, turn 4, I've been traveling at a higher speed than using all the exit and getting onto the power there. So let's not worry about that for now. Line-wise, let's just try to get the car rotated a bit more, but let's utilize that third gear. You'll get a much better pop out of the exit, okay? And that's going to find us a boatload of time. So third gear here, get the car rotated a bit more, get back to 100% throttle earlier than, get on throttle at sort of the same point, but I want to be at 100% throttle by the, you know, when we're at 50 here, I want to be at 100. I want to eliminate our delay there. So that means rotating the car more. You keep it tight over there, that's how I preferably, that's how I like. Then this thing's a monster in a straight line, so we got that. We're doing 150 miles per hour. It's a rocket ship. I think of the LMP car, I was doing like the same speed, to be honest. Not doing much more. Yeah, good through there. Good line. You know, way to wait on throttle and then pick up the throttle in one fluid motion. That's good. That's what I want to see. Okay, so I just want to see that everywhere. I want it to be one direct thing. We are either on the brakes, trail braking in to get the corner, or on throttle. I want it to be more like a switch, less like a really gradual thing. All right, but good job, man. 100%. Let's keep working at it. Again, let's just utilize that gearbox where we can. Give us a little bit of benefit. It's free time. It's easy free time. You can drive the identical lap and use third gear a bit more, and you're going to find time. So let's just use that. And for everything else, like I said, good job. Let's keep working together. It was it's fun for me. I love Daytona. So if you're ever here again, please let me know. All right. But we'll talk soon. Any questions, any feedback, send it over to Dion and myself. And you know, I love the feedback, but I realistically love to keep in tune with how you're doing. So keep me updated. All right. We'll talk soon, Jose. All the best.